Peace to everybody and shalom. I hope you guys are blessed and had a good week this week. Been an amazing week. All kinds of things transpiring on every level. Spiritual things are for sure happening. Right now we're in a high during this full moon season and session. It's a very good time for you to look introspectively into yourself, and maybe you'll be amazed at what you might see that you haven't. Uh, we're going to find out today some really profound things, and I do want to once again remind people that if you're looking for a religion like Christianity to bring your salvation to you, then I probably won't have any words to help you. There is no salvation in that manner. And so for some of you that may be very difficult. Some of you may be looking for the old Jesus in new clothes, or a new Jesus in old clothes, however the case may be. But unfortunately, if you'll grow and learn, you'll begin to find out that it never was about him in the first place, and neither did he view it as being that. And so that's quite a shock for somebody who spent their whole life thinking that it's all about Jesus, their new God. And that is the message that Christianity has sold people. There is a new God in town. There's a new sheriff in town, and he replaces that mean, ugly God. As I've shown you guys very clearly, you had to not want to see it. The gods that were referred to as are nothing and non-existent anyways. They're simply mythology. And so I'm interested in getting past that nonsense, and sometimes that brings you to new nonsense that you must then learn how to crawl over that hurdle and continue on, and it'll be only those people who do those things. But I think you might be quite surprised today. Many of you may not understand the eons. That term is used as age and dispensations, times. The disciples asked Yahusha, so what is the end of the eon? What is the end of the age? Is how that ends up getting defined. Most of the concept that you're going to find here, when you see the term eon, and unfortunately because there are multiple understandings, the term eon is actually an eternal, celestially created, by source, species of overlords. And that's just kind of very rough. I will tell you, all over the world right now, people are starting to begin to recognize that we have been lied to, and that the greater probability is that we were created by a God, but that God, we would view him now as being an alien, and that they entered into our realm over at least 17,000 years. There's proof of that. It's all over the Bible, but you've been given a perspective that corrupts that and blinds you and doesn't allow you to see. So you look at things from a false spiritual vision, and yet again another illusion and illumination. You'll see that it's very common. These people knew about the illusions and the fake. And so as you grow along, you'll begin to all of a sudden, or some will begin to get a revelation of what it really is all about, and that it may not be about what we've been taught our whole life it's about. It's a strange concept that you must receive resurrection on this earth before you die. I haven't talked about that, but to be quite honest with you, friends, it actually makes ascending mandatory. Lots of information that goes with that, but for today's practical purpose of beginning, I just want to set the stage. We're going to begin by looking at glorification, and there's three phases of that are going to go on in these teachings, and I would like for you to, if you possible, I don't know that you can, but if you can, begin to loosen your mind up and begin to open your mind. Unfortunately, even people who in many cases think they're open-minded are really very closed-minded. And somebody presents something that's new and it must be wrong. And so I wish for you that you won't do that, but although I know many will. And so uh, there's going to be all kinds of concepts that come out, and most of those are literal and yet not literal. They're metaphors, they're allegories, but they have a literal application, not so much interpretation as application. Uh, and so it's really, it is for the mindful. It's quite funny that that has resided now for that a length of time, over 17,000 years. People have had knowledge that it's all about your mind. And yet we live in a society who is the most mindless that has existed. And so if you think that's okay, then by all means continue to live like you are. If you recognize that it's not, then it's your choice to do something about it. What happens to you after this life is dependent on what you choose to do about it. If you choose to do nothing, that's one picture, and if you choose to do something, then there is a totally different picture. The two are not interchangeable. And why did they want us to know that? Because they didn't want us to know that we have the power to get out of the cycle of over and over and over again. You guys can keep coming back as long as Source allows you to, and as long as you want to. There's no great glory for coming back over and over and over again. That's why if you'll pay attention to any of the things that are being taught, you will hear more about not coming back than you hear about coming back. Because this is the drudgery, this is the hard place to learn the lessons that you otherwise either couldn't or wouldn't. And so you get forced into a rock and a hard place, and you have a potential to do good on this earth, or you have a potential to suffer again. And once again, the choice is yours totally. Please, by all means, choose what resonates with you. If it's wrong, it just simply means you'll have to come back and do it all over again. So there are many, many, many old souls that exist on the earth. There are some new souls that are here, and then there are star seeds that are coming into our society on an ever increasing, because there's some things going on in the heavenlies that are coming our direction that are very shortly in front of us going to begin to affect us a lot more than we have a clue of. And so it'd be a good idea to get a clue. But if we choose not to, then that once again is on us. It is our choice. And so let's see what goes on here. Let's start today with catch your mind, catch your peace. Just when you put your hands here, maybe some of you that watch The Voice, watch Snoop Dogg, he's constantly doing this. He doesn't say the words, folks, but what he is saying in his heart is exactly what you're hearing here every day. May my light see you, and may your light see me. Because see, we're all light, and we're all one light. And then of course we prove our humility by bowing ourselves to each other in humility, and we say namaste. So it's really, in the functioning process of it, the words are really not what is important. It's the actions that are important. The words go good because we help people then understand why they're doing the actions, maybe. So we were in the Gospel of Philip, correct? I had two places going on. I picked the wrong one. It was good over there. But it will also be good here. There's lots of things. Philip. Who was Philip? Philip was a disciple. Philip did supernatural works. He transcended while he was on this earth. We see him in one place, and supernaturally he disappears from here to there. That is in a way a form of astral projection. He projected himself from one fixed literal place to another fixed literal place and then reappeared, just as Yahusha did. And so if we were to begin, and hopefully you will, because I think there's so much wealth of truth. Once you get the code and then begin to change your vision, you begin to see how much these guys, the things that they were saying that we have an interpretation of that came from Christianity and from Bible and from Christian preachers, once you actually get your eyes open and quit looking at the illusion, then you begin to see the reality is that these were metaphysical people. And if you'll spend the time to go back and look even further back in history, you will find that all humans have been metaphysical. Religion had to break that, because if you ever knew who you are, what you are, and how powerful you are, you would quit being weak. And if you quit being weak, then you're a threat to them. That's why the ones who stood up, the Gnostics of the time, they killed them by the thousands. Why? Because they scared them. Because they could not be controlled, because they possessed inner truth. And so we can see in our society, we see metaphoric pictures of this going on all around. We see Donald Trump, you could represent him as light. We can look at the Democrats, which we could look at as darkness, and we see darkness starting to run from the light. Well, there's actually a beautiful teaching there, because we've been told and programmed through the spirit realm that darkness attacks light, but that's never true, and it's never going to be true. In the morning, darkness does not attack the sun. The sun attacks darkness. And until we begin to grab that revelation, we're going to continue to get defeated on every level when we, in fact, are the more powerful one. And I don't wish that for anybody. I see so many people that are living fruitless lives spiritually. Understand, the definition of Christianity is to tell you that there is a spirituality. The definition of metaphysics is, I'm going to show you how to function in spirituality. And those two are really drastically opposed. Everybody can tell you about the virgin birth of Jesus, which never happened. There's been 7 virgin births in past history, friends. So if that was supposed to be the ultimate see it all sign, then unfortunately it was 7th on the list, not number 1. So those things really affect a lot of things, especially in the time and the season that we're in. Is Christmas a bad thing? No, it's just a pagan holiday. If you like pagan holidays, you should enjoy it to the fullest. And if you are not so drawn to be part of paganism, then you may want to abstain from it. Neither one is right and neither one is wrong. It's just a matter of your choice. Understand that whatever we choose, there's a price to be paid for that. There's a yin and yang in everything. For every action, there is an equal and opposite. We need to remind ourselves of that statement. An equal and opposite reaction for everything that we do. And you've often encountered it, and maybe sometimes you've been a little baffled, as I myself have, as to why you got that reaction when you did what you wanted to. And it's because you became thoughtless and you did not remember the principles, that everything is on a line and they're all the same. Yes and no are the exact same. They're just on different spectrums. The Kabbalion was really powerful about teaching that. I don't know how many of you are taking it and using it in your life, and if you're not, I'm sad for you, because you begin to see the world differently when you begin to look at things from that context. So it's all about a journey, friends. I don't know how many days I've got, and I don't know how many days you've got, but I do know that we have a process that we're supposed to experience while we're here in human form. And so that's what these are all about, these metaphorics. There's much of this book, though it may sound literal to you, that is not literal at all. It's totally metaphoric. It's totally speaking. Where I was going to take you guys was actually delve directly into that. That there are different classifications and there are different power ratings, and there's different winners and losers, and all of those things seem quite important to me. So we've left off in the Gospel of Philip, I guess last week, at baptisms and anointing, and so let's just see what Philip has to share with us. This book is not a gospel in the concept of Matthew, Mark. It's not a synoptic gospel. It's really a lot closer akin, and I suspect that there was a version of teaching that went on there. In fact, I personally believe that the synoptic gospels, some of those were not written until the year 300, even into to 400, and which are painted as a picture. Well, anything that gives you truth should be considered the gospel. Gospel concept is good news. Truth is always good news. Is truth ever bad news? No. Truth is good news that doesn't bring you pleasure. And we will see in Patanjali that that concept is opening the door for some other teachings that, once again, are also ancient about our view of the world, and it's really, our view of the world is really corrupt compared to what those in the past who had discipline and mindfulness, how they viewed the world. There is a raising and an elevation of frequency. I don't say everyone, because I don't believe that that's true. Everyone will not experience what's going on right now. Many will even get a taste of it and then turn around and pull backwards from it. But there is a raising of elevation right now going on all over the earth. And it's going to continue for a while. We're going to see lots of things that we had never believed, and there will still be those people who choose to live the same life they're living now. Quite sad, actually, but it is the truth nonetheless. Remember, truth is never bad. Truth is always good, because truth points us in the right direction. Just sometimes truth is painful. And so that's not a negative thing, that's a positive thing. And so, baptism and anointing. By water and fire, this whole realm is purified. The visible by the visible, and the hidden by the hidden. Some things are hidden by the visible, and there is water within water. There is fire within the oil of anointing. Now, we could get into quite a few dissertations about this statement right here, and I'm not quite sure. The anointing and the power and the psychic power and all of those things, friends, are just as real as they were in biblical time today. The problem is that we were 2,000 years removed from people who even functioned in this stuff. So it's going to take us a while to get back there. Many of you are watching it go on. It is all over the place. The channelings are part of those anointings. The supernatural words that are coming about the changing of times and seasons and all of that stuff, those are also pieces of the changing of the anointed. There's always been anointed ones. There's always been Christ on this earth, which is the whole concept of Christ, is the anointed one. And there are many Christ, many that have been anointed by source. And so Jesus tricked everyone. Jesus tricked everyone, for he did not appear as he was. I hope you guys can really understand when you hear really archaic words, like we're living in an illusion and this is not reality. For many of you, that may almost be more than you can deal with, for a whole host of reasons. I don't say any of those reasons are necessarily wrong. They're opinions, they're thoughts, but I think all of us could, at least, if we can't agree on anything else, we can agree on that over the course of time, oftentimes our opinions change. And so it's up to us to learn that principle and then put it into work in our own lives. That just because something doesn't look the way that I think it should, that's why I cautioned you about this whole concept of resonation. I've watched more people resonate against the right thing and for the wrong thing than you guys would have any belief of. Thousands of hours I spent listening to counseling, and every one of them always gave me a reason why whatever was said or somebody's behavior did not resonate with them, and yet when it was all said and done, they were the ones who were wrong. So be very careful about this whole concept and thinking that just because you don't like it, that must somehow make it right. It doesn't make it right. Some of the things that you don't like are the most truth you'll ever find in your life. And so they're using it and they're abusing it just as they do all kinds of other words. And the mass majority of people just go along for the ride and do no study, so they just say whatever somebody else told them. And we have to be very careful. That's not mindfulness. That's yet again still functioning in the phase of mindlessness. So Jesus tricked everyone, for he did not appear as he was. So can we immediately get a little revelation there? I'm going to try to finish the sentence. I'm sorry. But he appeared so that he could be seen. Okay? So we have a record, we have a statement made that the Jesus that was not the Jesus that he is. He couldn't be himself. I suppose we couldn't deal with it. We couldn't handle it. We could, if he had popped up as an orb floating around, mental telepathy talking to you, and you're looking at an orb of light. Well, those orbs are all over this earth, everywhere, all the time, even now. So why could he not appear to you? For the same reason that you don't appear in the manner in which you are. He could only appear to you as your humanness could deal with it. So he appeared as a human. He wasn't a human except in a physical body that we know died, whether it died on the cross or whether it died 80 years later in India is really irrelevant, because it never was about the physical body to begin with. And for some of you, that may be kind of difficult. If you have loved ones who are getting aged in their life, you really should not be so concerned. Whatever's going on with their physical body is not really at all important. It's inevitable that body is going to die. What you should be most concerned about is, do these people know the truth before they step out of that body and then have to deal with the reality of their actions, behaviors, thoughts, all of those processes. If you really love someone, can you really let them die and go to the Akashic record and examine themselves for how wrong they were for all of those years? Would you want to perpetrate them living another lifetime because you did nothing? A lot of people I know want that kind of life. They help no one, they tell no one, they don't teach anybody anything because they themselves know next to nothing. And you can do that, but it ain't going to serve well. So he didn't come like he was. He came like we could see him. I shared with you a couple of weeks ago before I was in the hospital that the Father said that all the words that we have used to describe him are just empty words. None of them are him. And that's really a profound statement. So when you think you're crying to Yahweh, God, or whatever, none of it means anything. They're all just a bunch of words that humans use to try to identify with something. They're not reality. And so, but he appeared so that he could be seen. He appeared to everyone. He appeared to the great as great. He appeared to the small as small. He appeared to the angels as an angel and to humans as a human. So the same Christ spirit force that functions interacts with Archangel Michael as an archangel. I'll show you where a piece of that applies. There's been so much questioning and asking, was it Yahweh that came down on top of the plain of Dura and talked to Abraham? Remember, there were 3 that came, 2 were angels. Well, I personally have come to believe, the more that I learned, that was, if I can use the term correctly, it was Christ. He just manifested himself in an angelic form, but also in a physical form. And I'm not real convinced when the two angels went down to Sodom and Gomorrah to see Lot that he did not flip out of that and stand in front of Abraham for their conversation about would you save in human form. Bible kind of alludes to that, but if you don't know these sequences, you won't understand what's going on. None of it makes sense. I've heard 10 different stories about what that was that went on. Just like the three up on the mount. What went on there? Who was it that they saw? And so he appeared to the greatest great. He appeared to the smallest small. He appeared to the angels as an angel and to humans as a human. For this reason, his word was hidden from everyone. Some looked at him and thought they saw themselves. But when he appeared to his disciples in glory upon the mountains, he was not small. And the concept there being humans are the smallest or the least of all things. So I think you probably in context could have actually read there that he did not present himself to them as a human on the mount. He became great. Or rather, he made the disciples great so that they could see him in his greatness. So do you get the picture there? He really didn't change anything. All he did is just like the prophet who the scales were removed from his eyes and he looked around himself and he saw that there were 10,000s upon 10,000s of angels all around him who were constantly. Oh, that we would have that revelation in this time of all that source has provided for us that we have zero knowledge of, we have zero ability to entertain it, we have zero ability to possess it, we have zero ability to function in it, and yet it's all around us everywhere. That goes with supernatural healing, that goes with sight reading, that goes with astral projection, that goes with psychic. It goes with all of them. It's all around us all the time. And yet we absolutely unequivocally cannot see it. So we go through whatever hoops man tells us to go through so we can try to act like we're spiritual, which is nothing but an illusion. Because you don't have to act like you're spiritual. When you're spiritual, you're just spiritual. Can't imagine how many people I've listened that can't wait to talk about all that's happened to them. And that's all good and wonderful. As humans, we need to do those things. They're wonderful. I had a past life deal, and I talk about that when the opportunity arises. It was amazing. It was overwhelming to me to see this in my mind and then to read books that say that other people, or to watch YouTube and find out how many other people have had past lives like myself. But that doesn't make me spiritual. Everyone should be having those past lives. Everyone should be having those psychic things. Everyone, but there's something that's holding us back, and typically knowledge is what keeps us from it. And of course, we don't want to learn because we're lazy-minded, so we just do nothing and we're okay with it. This move that's going on, friend, I have to tell you, I believe this comes straight from the source. But the move that's coming on is only going to function for people who are interested in functioning in it. If you don't care about any of this stuff past this, you won't ever experience it. You might get vestiges of it. You might get leftovers from somebody else's work, but you're never going to walk in the fullness of source unless you tie yourself to him. Ever. That's not the way he doesn't give his spiritual gifts to lazy people who don't want to work. That's not how it works. And so when you see in the Bible that everyone has gifts and God gave them all, and then we equate those things to music talent or some other kind of talent, I hate to tell you, those are probably the least of the gifts, not the greatest. Because that's carnal, and what's greatest in the kingdom is spirit, not material. Those are material things. The angels make amazing, glorious music with no instruments. It bleeds out of them simply by virtue. And so we have to be very careful. What is it that you want to be? Do you just want to be another carnal human? Or do you want to be a spirit being and experience all that that spirit being has? Because many of those things you think are important now have zero value to source. So, he appeared to everyone as they were. That kind of ties us back to Paul's statement of, I'm everything to all men. That wasn't a new concept, and it wasn't even foreign. It's only foreign to Christians. All of these people believe that. Because the master believed it. He knew it to be true, not just a belief. And so, some looked at him and thought they saw themselves. You notice there's nothing added to that. That's one of those statements, figure it out for yourself. But when he appeared to his disciples in glory upon the mountain, he was not small. He became great. So I can paint a picture for you. It's as if when Yeshua walked up on that mountain, he did this and he pulled the zipper down and he stepped out of his body. If you've listened to any of the past life, you will find that those people feel an uncomfortableness when they come back into their body. Why? Because we are infinitely greater inside than we are in our physical body. Yeshua is showing us that he put off his flesh so that his true self was what they saw. And because they were carnal and couldn't deal with that, he had to supernaturally then do something to them to make them great also. I would contend he took them out of their bodies. It could have been very near, like some of you have had near-death experiences, and some of you have had astral experiences where you have a vision and you're out of your body. That was kind of the concept of what is trying to be exposed here, that you can't entertain the spirit realm in your carnalness. And so if your mind is carnal, you can't deal with the spirit no matter how hard you try. I'm really giving you a lot of love and a lot of gifts that most people will never hear in their lifetime. But I assure you they absolutely will be proven to be correct. So I guess then we come back to the age-old question of, what do you want? Do you want to continue to be a spirit being that is blocked off and tied up inside of a prison body? I've heard people condemn the concept of Gnosticism that the human body is a prison. The human body is a prison. Why do you think all the Christians, when we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be? Why? Because I finally got rid of my humanity. Nobody even asked that in Pentecostalism. Why is it going to be such a day of rejoicing? And so, when he appeared to his disciples in glory upon the mountain, he was not small. So we know that there was a spiritual thing that got exposed here. He became great, or rather, he made the disciples great. He's already great. He's always been great. He will always be great. There is no him becoming. It just means that he exposed them to what it is, which could be very much akin to the things that you see with Enoch. Enoch was skirted away by a flying craft. Elijah was floated away by a flying craft. You're going to find that there's a whole lot more of this supernatural space stuff that has been going on all through humanity. And we now have records. You know, just ask yourself a simple question. If the Atlanteans lived 24,000 years ago, and we now have records of Dagon and the stories that existed through over 8 different, completely different cultures who knew of star seeds and gods coming from heaven in flying ships, why does it surprise you that the government can't tell you what's flying around all over the world? Some of you, I told Marianne today, and I'm going to try to do this, so we may take if I can find it, we're going to take yet again another little sidetrack, but they'll all eventually, the threads will combine back. But whether you know it or not, friend, if you know anything about the Hopi prophecy about the last age, it speaks to everything that's going on right now, including the facet that it will be the time that has been appointed by Source, by the All, by the Great Spirit, that we will once again meet the creators of humanity. And they're going to come to this earth in ships. It's really hard because we've been so projected that God is this specific thing. Anything that was greater than the people 17,000 years ago was deemed as a god. And they flew into this earth atmosphere. These people saw them, they wrote about them. And so how does 17,000 years ago written historical text of 17,000 years ago and them encountering star gods, flying in flying ships that came to earth and taught them how to do all of the stuff that everybody marvels how these people who had no technology could do things that we can't do with technology. You don't believe me? Go look at the stonework of these great monoliths and megaliths, and they will tell you now that with laser saws and all kinds of technological stuff that they cannot get stones that big to fit together without millions of dollars of equipment. If you are a really thinking person, you would have to stop and ask yourself, I don't know, that's a pretty good question though. And so he didn't make himself any different. He simply exposed to them what he had hidden. So, boy, when you say it like this, because it's true for us too, but when you say it like this, it's pretty huge. Yeshua came and lied to the people because they couldn't handle the truth. He gave them an illusion. Humans have lived in a matrix that this God man was somehow had something to do with the man because they believe that their physical body is who they are. That's one of the greatest lies that exist in the world, friend. Now, you can allow yourself to believe and live in that reality. They call it the matrix. You live in a fake reality where you think that your physical human body is you, but I promise you, when you leaves your physical human body, your you will continue to live and your body will cease to live. We really should think about these things a lot more than what we do. They're going to be vitally important to you to have this knowledge. Source loves you. That's why this is being exposed. So, one of my statements is if he could make them great, then what keeps the Spirit Christ from making us great? And the answer to that is nothing. He's already told us that we're light. The problem is us. We refuse to believe what he's already told us. Prayer of thanksgiving. And he said on that day in the prayer of thanksgiving, you who have united perfect light with Holy Spirit, unite the angels also with us, but dig this, as images. As images. Images are not the thing, they're a picture of the thing. That's a really heavy concept right there. He just spewed out in one little bitty sentence. So listen to what he's praying for, and this is the prayer of thanksgiving. You who have united perfect light with Holy Spirit. So if you understood this, it would totally destroy Pentecostalism, because how can you be filled with the Holy Spirit and not be united with perfect light? I tell you the truth, none of them know the truth. None. And unite the angels also with us as images, as pictures. The Lamb. Do not despise the Lamb, for without it no one could see the King. Which king is he talking about? If you'll look, if you have the book, there's a footnote there. that footnote states this. It says, or the door. So the king and the door in this concept can be used interchangeably. So unless you are united, perfect light with Holy Spirit, in this view of the Lamb, which is also another metaphor, you will not see the door. You will not come to the door. You will not enter the door. Is it not kind of strange that he uses this metaphor in multiple of the Gospels? It made it through, and yet nobody understands what's being said. He said, behold, I stand at the door and knock. So you can take that in perspective of from this side, but you can also take that as a perspective because according to the context of what Yeshua said, you are the door, friend. You are what will either get opened or will stay closed. Why? Because we're already light. If we open the door, we allow the light to escape. If we keep the door closed, we contain the light inside and it has no value. That's why there's so many people that are not spiritual, because their light is contained. Meeting the king. No one can meet the king while naked. No one can meet the king while naked. So we ask ourselves then, is this literal? Is this a metaphoric notation? What does it mean to be naked? Children of the perfect human. Are you ready? The heavenly person has more children than the earthly person. If the children of Adam are numerous but die, how much more numerous are the children of the perfect human, who do not die but are continually being born? That right there speaks an ancient text of reincarnation pretty blatant in your face, doesn't it? A father produces children, but a child cannot produce children. One who has just been born cannot be a parent. Rather, a child gets brothers and sisters, not children. All who are born in the world are born of nature. Why is Mother Earth such a big thing? Because Mother Earth is divinely connected to our humanity. This earth is the bottle of which humans suck off to receive sustenance, whether it be water, whether it be air, whether it be food, whether it be grass, it doesn't matter. All of the elements stem from Mother Earth. And the others are nourished from where they are born. So listen to that, because there's some pieces in there that you may grasp a glimpse of some of the things that I've been talking about. For many of you, if it's difficult to deal with this whole concept that we're not the only ones, and we've never been the only ones, that maybe there's a reason why. There's only two reasons why, friend, these discs are flying all over the earth at the time that they are, at the time that we're in right now. And the best our government can offer you is that they have no idea about what they are. They're calling them drones, but they're not drones. It's very clear if you'll go watch the videos of them, they're not drones. Somebody told me, can you believe that? They're not even drones, they're spheres. Well, they don't want you to know. I personally believe our government's been talking to starseeds for a long time. They came from Sirius, they came from Pleiadia, Arcturus, There's quite a few places that star seeds have come to this earth from. So all who are born in the world are born of nature. All of us humans are born of nature. And the others, what others? I mean, you just, sometimes you ought to just take the time to stop and ask yourself, what others? If everybody that we know personally is a human that was born of earth, if they don't eat food, they die. Okay? So why would he say all who are born in the world are of nature? And the others, what others? What others? What others is there on this earth besides all who are born in the world? So it's quite obvious that right there in that statement, he's validating, yet again, I'm literally talking, friends, hundreds of thousands of statements made in the Bible and external text about the supernatural realm, and it's not what they told you in Christianity. It is a real, living, functioning place. The only problem is we have been so lied to and so robbed from knowing what we are and then knowing how to function in that realm that we think that is some supernatural. It is totally natural to everyone except for humans. There's no super to it. And so people are nourished from the promise of the heavenly place, if they would be from the mouth from which the word comes. Now, once again, though, you see that's been sewn in there that is an option. Doesn't say that everyone will. It says, if you choose to be nourished from the words that come from the mouth, from which the word comes, they would be nourished from the mouth and would be perfect. Just so you know, friends, it wasn't about what Yeshua did. It was about what he said. The words that he brought to us were the God words. And I believe at that level you could say it in the context that those were the words of God that were sent to tell us about the truth. When Source speaks through me and I say things that I don't have knowledge of, but I have knowledge of, those are not my words. Those words that Yeshua spoke are words of the Father's. He wanted humanity to know that we are something great and amazing and wonderful and powerful and beautiful. But you see, it's just like Robert Kennedy stopping the poisoning of the American people. It costs too much. Do you have any clue of what that guy is about to do to the American society if he accomplishes that which he desires to accomplish, which is to make us healthy by removing the poisons that they feed you, and you in turn have no problems feeding to your children? Do you understand how much upset and upheaval our earth for the next 4 years is going to undergo? When the prophecies that I've read, the Hopi prophecy and the other prophecies, and the channelers who are telling people, oh, it's going to be wonderful and our frequency is increasing and there's going to be a dividing line. Those who are frequency and those who are not, they're not going to see. Their timelines are going to totally shift. That means half of the people in my life I will never see after a certain point. They will be gone. And the same for you if you are walking in light. If not, then there will be a lot of light that's taken out of your life and you will never see them again. But every one of them across the board talks about the struggle that is about to come on humanity. Yes, sir. It's going to happen. It's already started if you want to know the truth. That's why the two factions are warring against each other. The love of humankind and raising of frequency, and the base who wants to keep people in bondage. Well, doesn't that sound like what our government is doing is the same thing Christianity has been doing? Isn't it there to keep you in bondage and to keep you low frequency so that you can't find out who you are? There was a time in this country when a president's standing up and saying, I want to make America great again, the guy everybody in America would have voted for him. So if you don't think there hasn't been any damage done to us, guess again. But that is in the process of changing. So, people are nourished from the promise of the heavenly place, if they would be. In other words, it's a choice. From the mouth from which the word comes. They would be nourished from the mouth and would be perfect. So then what makes me perfect? When Yeshua says to me that you are light, that word makes me perfect. If I pay heed to it. If I consume it. And if I just hear it and go talking about it and do nothing with it, it hasn't benefited me one iota. In fact, what it's actually going to do is it's going to detriment me when I stand in front of the Akashic record. Because I'm going to have to deal with the fact that truth was put in my face and I was too damn lazy to do anything with it. The perfect conceive and give birth through a kiss. The perfect conceive and give birth through a kiss. This is why we also kiss each other. You see it in the New Testament. And they greeted each other with a holy kiss. It has nothing to do with the physical act of the kiss. It has to do with the spiritual act of the heart. You will not share that embrace with people that you don't love and it have any value. Doesn't mean you can't do it, it just has no value. It's fake. It's an illuminati. It's another illusion. I alluded that I loved you, but really I hate your guts. So the perfect conceive and give birth through a kiss. This is why we also kiss each other. We conceive from the grace within each other. That's a huge statement, friends. That doesn't exist in most people or most places on this earth. In fact, to be quite honest with you, the mass majority of people not only live in the illusion, they generate the illusion. 3 women named Mary. 3 women always walked with the Master. Mary, his mother, his sister, and Mary of Magdala, who is called his companion. For Mary is the name of his sister, his mother, and his companion. We're going to find a lot. We're going to read the book of Mary Magdalene. You guys are going to be blown away. There's a reason why they were looking for the child of the human Yeshua over in France 2,000 years ago. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. This is so crazy. Father and Son are simple names. Holy Spirit is a double name. They are everywhere, above and below. Remember the Kabbalion, as above, so below. The Spirit's in the heavens, the Spirit is on the earth. And in the hidden and in the invisible. In the hidden and in the visible. The Holy Spirit is the visible. And then it is below. And the Holy Spirit is the hidden, and then it is above. Have you understood that? The Holy Spirit is more real not being seen than what you can project as being seen. It's in everything. It's everywhere always. His Spirit. Holy Spirit and evil forces. Evil forces serve the saints. This is going to be difficult for some of you. You're going to shake your head and go, how could a God do yeah. Folks, you ain't got a clue about what Source has done and is doing. Evil forces serve the saints, for they have been blinded by the Holy Spirit into thinking they are helping their own people when they are really helping the saints. As we grow and learn and looking at the spiritual realm and all of the paranormal aspects, the psychic aspect, some of you, if you want to see a true picture of how humans are really supposed to be functioning, and it's coming out more and more because there are more and more starseed children that are being born. Children are being born with higher frequencies, but there's a series out there that we watched, and it's called either Paranormal Children or Psychic Children. It was amazing to me over the course of watching this, because I've known parents who have children who are talking to spirits, and it always gets diminished and inevitably ends up shaming the child. Some of us probably functioned in that realm, and it was beat out of us by society and doctors and parents. But it's amazing across the board when these young children, 10, 12 years old, who are functioning in the spirit realm with no knowledge of how to do it. It was a gift that was given to them. And how scared they were and how scared their parents were. And it takes a very short amount of time to turn that situation totally upside down and empower those children to then be able to function in the spirit realm, friends. All of the things that we were taught to be scared of in Christianity are real, and they're right, and they're from Source, and they're not bad, and we know nothing about them. Do you think that was accidental? Do you think they were trying to empower you when they hid from you every truth that exists over 24,000 years, and they hid every one of those known abilities to be able to function in the spirit realm? Do you think that it was done for your protection? If so, you probably think Adam Schiff is a good guy. Evil forces serve the saints. Stop and think about that for just a minute. For they have been blinded by the Holy Spirit in thinking. So here's the thing that we never see. Everybody's scared of ghosts and paranormal. And I don't say there aren't bad spirits. There, in fact, are. But they've been blinded by the Holy Spirit into thinking they are helping their own people, when they really are helping us. What? How could the bad be helping us? Well, you certainly don't find Paul running from them. In fact, the only way you can exercise spiritual strength is to fight spiritual war. So if no other way, you should actually make sure you're ready for it, but you should be asking Source that he would give you some more bad spirits that you could dominate, so you can learn how to be strong in the spirit realm. It's coming. I believe it is coming. I've been knowing this for 30 years. Pieces of it I've been seeing. I've been attacked by dark spirits. But it's not the perspective that we have of them. If you come from a place of spiritual strength and enlightenment, to you, they're nothing. So, a disciple once asked the master for something from the world, and he said, "Ask your mother, and she will give you something from another realm." Don't ask me. Boy, what do you think that does about Sunday morning prayer? Now we have Yahusha standing here and going, look, guy, if the only thing you're worried about is the healing for somebody, don't ask me. Go ask your mama. Because I've got real stuff to deal with, like the spirit realm. Do you see how, once again, I know I say it and I'm going to continue because it's the greatest facet that's ever happened to humanity. We've been so brainwashed, deceived, and downgraded mentally that we have no consciousness at all that we are great or could even be great. To us, greatness is that you became Donald Trump or you're a good football player or you play baseball or whatever. All carnal stuff that means nothing. Nobody's asking, begging source to enlighten me. Could you give me a raise at my job? Could you give me more work? All carnal. Wisdom and salt. The apostles said to the disciples, may our entire offering be provided with salt. For they called wisdom salt. You might take that and put that into play. Immediately what pops to my mind is when Yahusha, Master, says that if you have no flavor, you're worth nothing to him. And they don't tell you that in Christianity because that would make a lot of people go home and be mad at the preacher. But that's exactly what he was saying. If you have no wisdom, I have no value in you. For they called wisdom salt. Without it, an offering is unacceptable. See, a lot of the things that you guys were taught, it was doing the act that means something. And that's nothing but an act. That's not what's important. So without it, without wisdom, your offerings are unacceptable to him. Wisdom is barren with no children. So she is called the pillar of salt. The allusion there would be to Lot's wife. Lot's wife had no wisdom and she became a pillar of salt with no children. Whenever the Holy Spirit, ... you know, that means that the page had a hole in it, and she has many children. Father and child. A father's possession belonged to his child, as long as the child is young. The child will not have what belongs to it. When the child grows up, the father will turn over all the possessions. A father's possession belonged to his child. If we are, I'll tell you a piece of how this plays out because there's a lot here that I want to expose in a short amount of time. The thing that I just talked about the psychic children, those children possess father's stuff. As they grow up, they lose that, as the typical rule. Some don't, but the mass majority do. Many of you had children that talked to a friend that wasn't there in time because you typically constantly, you and the rest of your family constantly told them that it was just their imagination. And so the father's, what he had given them was lost. And then as they grow, many times, if that has happened to them, if they're not nurtured in the young and the father's gifts, the father's truth doesn't continue in them, they will come to another spell in their life where they will once again reignite. So as long as the child is young, the child will not have what belongs to it. So we get a picture here of the beginning of life, and children have these things. Then a child is young. Child no longer has those things that belong to it. Do you see? It is a birthright to us. Not as humans, it is a birthright to us as spirit beings. When the child grows up, the father will turn over all the possessions. That's why you have so many psychics who will say to you, I was 30 years old and something catastrophic thing happened, and poof, all of a sudden I started having these gifts that came out. That picture right there, friend, for you is the perfect example of what's going on in these people's lives. Now, would it be said that those people innately have something inside of them that is pure, that desires to do something for source? I would say most probably. Because then we get back to the door knocking. We get back to those that seek find. So these people that are doing this stuff are desirous to have those gifts. If you haven't prayed for those gifts, I'm sad for you. We should all be praying daily that Father would give us the desire to cleanse ourselves so that we might open our minds and be able to deal with Him. It becomes archaic. Oh, well, I heard that preacher talk about the chakra. I ain't got no need to open my crown chakra. Okay, just keep hanging with that one. We'll see where you end up. We're going to stop right there. The lost. Maybe you want to hear it before we leave. Those who have gone astray, so here we go, friends. Those who have gone astray, who are offspring of the Spirit, go astray also because of the Spirit. Thus, from one Spirit the fire blazes, and the fire extinguishes. Think about that this week. So the same fire that turns somebody else on will put somebody else out. It's the same Spirit. So it's not, actually, as I said, a lot of this stuff is tied up in the Christian doctrine in the New Testament. If you will listen and study, you will begin to then go back and read the New Testament as I have, and all of a sudden you'll see that there's a lot of hidden codes, and what they're really saying is not at all what I was told they were saying. How was I to know? I was supposed to have these people who had gone to colleges. I've had people that were over me as a pastor who had 5 or 6 different college degrees that knew nothing about what the scriptures meant, but they could sure tell you the Christian doctrine. That's kind of the whole concept of the spirit versus the body. One is spiritual and does not need 6 college degrees to know what the source says, and the other has 6 college degrees and still doesn't know what source says. That's a good thing and a bad thing depending on who you are. So we're going to take a few minutes and take a break. I'm sure you probably need to as well. And we're going to come back and hopefully bless you with a couple songs, and then we're going to take a look at Patanjali. You'll see some really wonderful stuff that ties in with all of this. Source is the information for us to be totally radically changed is available, friends. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's just a matter of us turning our minds on and applying action. So, peace to each and every one of you. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back in 10 minutes or so. All right. Shalom. are availing. So many ways and so many different times, he is constantly trying to get us to recognize that there is a better place for us, a much better place, in fact. It has power and authority over all the forces that are around us, and that doesn't always mean that you have the power to dominate them. It often means that you have the power to tolerate them. That's not everything that goes on in life has to be okay with us, friends. But what does have to be okay with us is the understanding that we are more than all that we see. And so when you begin to do that, then the ushers, so to speak, and it says the name of this first song that we're going to do to you, the ushers begin to take you from the back row to usher you to the best seat in the house. That's the name of the song, Best Seat in the House.
I'm gonna
of these days, friends, one of these days, we're in a process, the world is in a process of growing. And of course, you know, the unfortunate side effect is that may be not real great things for some people, but on the other side, it's going to be real great things for lots of other people. And the beauty is we get the opportunity to choose that. It is a choice that we get to make. And the free will concept of Source is absolutely amazing. You can choose destruction, and people are going to do it all the time. But on the other side, there's the other side of that equation you also can choose to do. And so it's so wonderful when you do. Many ways that we've been taught how, because just as complicit as Christianity is in the world in which we live in, the government is just as complicit in keeping people in bondage and slavery. And so when we listen and when we buy their lie, instead of walk according to the Spirit, Yahusha taught a lot about that, constantly talking about those who walk according to the Spirit, walk according to the Spirit. You can't be Father's Son without walking in the Spirit. You can't worship Father unless you worship Him in Spirit. On everywhere you turn, all His message, all the words that came out of His mouth should have given us a direct giveaway that there's more to this Spirit thing than what we're having knowledge. And so for those who are waking up, then they're beginning to see that there is something that is greater than all of this stuff that we call life. And so what they've instilled in us is a whole lot of things that are the negative things that we need to let go of, and then we look around and go, well, everybody's so negative. Well, there's a reason for that. Usually that comes from programming. And so the next song we're going to do speaks to one of those negative things that they inundate us with, and it literally is spoken of for the most part, other than around spiritual people. It's spoken of in a good concept. And that process is the process of pride. Well, the Bible tells us that pride always is evident before destruction comes. And so each one of us daily could then begin a new journey and ask ourselves, is there pride functioning in me today? Because if there is, my friend, the unfortunate end result of your pride is your destruction. And so we have the power to release that pride and to receive blessing. Wall of Pride.
Don't build a wall of pride, 10 feet tall, 20 feet wide. Don't build a wall of pride. Believe Father's words, the healing to your bones. Plan is when it's deep, it'll save your very soul. Don't build a wall of pride. Like those before me, Father is I am. We live the truth life and follow His commands. It's not the money that makes the man. His word was sent to us to understand. Don't build a wall of pride. 10 feet tall, 20 feet wide. Don't build a wall of pride. Father says what He means what He says. We got to keep learning His word every day. Don't build a wall of pride. Like those before me, Father is I am. We live true life and follow His command. It's not the money that makes the man. His word was sent to us to understand. Don't build a wall of pride. 10 feet tall, 20 feet wide. Don't build a wall of pride. Don't build a wall of pride. 10 feet tall, 20 feet wide. Don't build a wall of pride.
Hallelujah. Don't do it. No frustration, no negative towards any of us. Just a matter of fact statement. It's not going to benefit you. Please hear the words. Pride goes before destruction. Look for pride and you'll find out what's fixing to happen to you. That's a bad thing, but it's a good thing because it's truth. It gives us an opportunity to free ourselves. What an amazing thing. The next song we're going to do for you this morning is a song that's called Always. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. See, it's there even in that concept. Always.
My foes are many, they rise against me, but I will hold my ground. I will not fear the war, I will not fear the storm. My help is on the way, my help is on the way. Oh, source, He will not delay, my refuge and strength always. I will not fear, His promise is true. The Father will always come through. Always, always. Trouble surrounds me, chaos abounding. My soul will rest in you. I will not fear the war, I will not fear the storm. My help is on the way, my help is on the way. Oh, source, He will not delay, my
it does, always. Where are we going to seek for whatever we have need of? It's a very critical question to ask ourselves. What am I making my source? You know, I think that name is really one of the most appropriate because we all know that whatever the source of something is, where it emanates from. And so also, whatever you make as source is where whatever you get emanated from. And we know from very spiritual statements like, you cannot serve two masters. You can't have your self source or your job source and him be source. You put your faith in whatever it is that you actually believe in. And there's many teachings that are gonna expose that there's something really significantly greater going on here. And you have to really understand, or at least ask the question, why did Christianity work so hard to kill all of these people, and it was literally millions? Why did they spend 100 years killing so many people and burning so many books if what they had is the truth? Would the truth not stand? Was the truth not more powerful? And so if you can come to terms with that inside of you, then it, at least for me, became very easy to understand why they had to do what they had to do, why they've put us all under bondage. It's no different than where we are right now. Why do you have to pardon people if they haven't done anything wrong? It's a question that we have to all ask ourselves. Why is what is going on? And of course, Source has all the ultimate answers of why. It's very simple. It's really not that difficult at all to know why what's going on in our world. What we desire is what we manifested. And that works both individually, that works corporately, and that even works in the scheme of the whole world. And so we're watching a major shift that's never happened. As I told you guys 2 or 3 years ago, Source told me, I got a new perspective on this. He had told me, talking about the spirit of homosexuality, that there was a spirit force that was much stronger than that. And I took that to mean that there was something worse that we should be looking for, and although there's been worse, I'm now beginning to understand that what he was doing was already 3 years ago, he was preparing me for where we are, because the force that is greater than those forces is his force. And when we get a hold of that, life will begin to change. Is it slow? Yes. Will I be walking in power 5 years from now that I don't have now? Absolutely, no question. And so can you. The only thing that holds all of this captive is you. And so as people grow and learn, they will come to the place. We're going to see in Patanjali the spirit and the principle of this next song. None of you, I'm sure, are guessing. Let me rephrase that. I suspect none of you have ever sat around and asked God, please do whatever you need to do to me, good or bad, for me to learn the truth. Now, there might be some who said that, and if they are, I applaud you. You're a special human being. But that number would be very minuscule. There have been lots of wasted prayers about, oh, bless me and give me everything I want and give me a better job and more money and on and on and on and on. But the name of this next song is somebody who has the heart of Source. And the name of the song is Bring the Rain.
Praise you with all that I've gone through.
We'll be right back.
All right. Well, I hope you guys are blessed. I would like to say, unfortunately for all of us, we all, and when I say that, I know it's a generic. Maybe you're more elevated than we are or whatever. But all of us are in the state that we're in. And as far as I know, none of us, although we did it to ourselves, none of us had knowledge and intentionally, that is to say, we didn't set out and go, I'm going to get it all wrong. That's not how it was. I still don't think that's how it is. I don't think any of us necessarily want the bad things or want to miss what's going on, and so sometimes being told that we're not walking on the right path, even if there's a reason, and you could call it an excuse, some might, but I don't. I call it a reason. All of us are walking on the paths that we're on because of the guidance that we had in our past life. I've had many people condemn me about Christianity. To be honest with you, I'm totally floored that I ever made it out of it. I have thousands of people I know who will never make it out of Christianity. And so I think oftentimes we have to learn how to give ourselves a break, but still not diminish the reality of the words. Okay, so you give yourself a break. I didn't intend for this to happen. I was taught to be a Christian by my parents, and all of those things that we all go through and we all encountered and are all part of our life. But on the other side, are we really going to let that be our epitaph at the end? Well, he followed his, it's like the old question that we used to get asked when we were a kid. Well, if your friend jumped off the cliff, would you jump off too? The truth is for most people, yes, they would. And so for some of you who do want to come out of the lies and you want out from under the bondage of deception, the Bible clearly tells us, and we should take heed to it, that at the end of time, the thing that is going to be used is deception. What none of us were aware of is that statement actually is a reference to Christianity and religion. The Muslims are in as bad a case as Christians are, I promise you, friend. Muslims may have some pieces that are right, but I'm sorrowful, teaching your little children to hate Americans and want to destroy Israel in America. I can't see that as a higher frequency. It doesn't generate that in all the kids that are over here, so I don't know why it would to a Muslim child, that their frequency are raised by the thought of hate and killing. Is it those children's fault? Absolutely not. But it will be those children's decision to not remain like that will determine the rest of the outcome of their life. And so it is for us. It's not that it's not true. The question is are we capable and willing to see it, and then are we interested in doing something about it? And that's where it really shifts off. That's where mom and daddy fall out of the picture and religion falls out of the picture, because while I used to be, some little punk kid who didn't know what the truth was, I just believed whatever they told me. I don't get to live on that for the rest of my life. There has to be a point where I begin to grow up and logic and reason for myself. And so some want to hold on to those things, and I don't condemn you if that's who you are and what you want. I just tell you, it may not serve your best interest. It might not bring the most benevolent outcome. So we're going to go back and look at the pick up where we finished in Patanjali. There's so much, and it is indeed a fabric that is being woven. If you will dare to grab a hold every week of the threads and pull them together, you will find that little by little they weave themselves into a concept, and something over here that doesn't make sense to you, when it's mixed with something over here, may begin to make sense. And so I think we're really blessed to get this opportunity to even get to live this life. Many places you wouldn't have this opportunity. I full well know in many places I would suffer for the words that I've said against Christianity. And so on that end, even in the middle of the bad thing, I said this recently, and I'm going to say it again. You should really be thankful for the America that we've been blessed to live in. We are blessed, whether you recognize it or not. Whether everybody over here is acting like they should at the highest frequency and the highest standard, we know that's not true. But on the other side, man, I can't imagine what some of these other people endure as a life. And so, but there's no question, inevitably, once you grow up, and this is where Paul's statement that when I was a child, I did childish things, and now I'm not a child, and it's time to quit doing the childish things. Many people want to live the same life they've been living and somehow want things to be different, and they won't be. So, Patanjali, page 130, if you have the book with us. We left off 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Apologize for getting sick and all of that stuff and missing a service. I always hate to do that, but I really am not a big fan of pneumonia personally. So we left off to read the Gospel of Truth in the Nag Hammadi, I think 2 weeks ago maybe. And I want to pick back up here. It's now time and season. We're not done. Patanjali hasn't. He's just sowing handfuls of blessing everywhere if we'll just grab it. And so we left off at Aphorism 10. And this is Aphorism 10. When these obstacles have been reduced to a vestigial form, they can be destroyed by resolving the mind back into its primal cause. Now, if you'll remember right, the obstacles, we looked at those obstacles. It's okay, go back if you have it, or if you have the PDF, drop back a page or two and read that to catch up. But we went over the obstacles that are hindering and impeding, and we'll pick back up and you'll be right back in time. But the one thing I wanted you to see with this, just because these obstacles exist doesn't mean that they have to. In other words, we have an option to change our life. You really are, more so than I think we have yet come to knowledge and understanding, more so that you are creating your reality. I know that that's such a strange statement because I've talked to a lot of people not associated with us. And I would say words, I might meet somebody at Walmart in a conversation, and I'll just tell them, I'll say, well, you realize that you're creating your reality, right? And friends, that one little simple statement can bring some of the strangest responses that you've ever seen. Because unfortunately, we have been locked away and hidden and lied to that we are powerful. So we believe that things like fate control us and destiny controls us. There's many people that are channeling and sharing truths out there. One recently by somebody that you might have an interest to listen to is Cryon, and it has to do with the thing that we were explained to be a soul contract. One of the most eye-opening revelations of recent in the profoundness of it. There is no soul contract. You made a choice to come to this earth, and there are multiple potentials for your life. You must choose. Totally just blew everything that everybody else has been selling, that I sat down and signed a piece of paper that I could come into this life and suffer. That's not how it works apparently at all. There were multiple outcomes of what your life could be. The thing that determines that is you. So, if you were a rebellious child and you lied and you cheated and you stole and you did everything that was immoral and you have a bad life, the potential for that life existed, but there was at the same time, there was another timeline that you would have never experienced any of that. It was you. You did this. And so the beauty also of this life is that those multiple potentials never cease. So you may have been this your whole life. As long as you're still in human form, you still have the potential of the other timeline, but it's up to you to get off of this timeline and to get on this timeline. That's all your responsibility. Totally free will to you. If you choose not to, you will stay right there going through whatever you've been going through your whole life, and you will never see a deviation. On the other side, if you choose to change timelines, if you choose to change dimensions, there is another reality that is waiting for you, but you must align yourself with it. It's been changing the way I view everything in the world. Totally. Totally. So there was two roads that we can go by. This is in a song that was cast out by the Christian church. Really a profound line that Robert Plant wrote in the song Stairway to Heaven, because he makes this comment. This is one of the most metaphysical songs that's ever existed. It should have been glorified, not demonized. But he says this statement. He says, there are two paths that you can go by, but in the long run, there's still time for you to change which one you're on. I just said that to you. Totally metaphysical. It doesn't have anything to do with anything physical. That's all about you. Will you accept the responsibility for your reality, and then will you take the steps to change it? And if you choose not to, you answered. You told the universe what you wanted. I want more of this bad stuff that's not working for me. And the universe, my friend, will give you plenty. As we learn about these things, folks, it really is, for us, it becomes the beginning of learning a new language. Because now we're speaking a totally spiritual language. I understand why the aliens speak in telepathy. Talking is a waste of time, and it has no value. I can say a word and have best interest at heart, and somebody will go tell their friend, man, that guy was so negative today. But when you communicate in the spirit, there's no room for that. So, aphorism number 11. In their fully developed form, they can be overcome through meditation. These obstacles. So whatever obstacles in your life that you are encountering, which are unique on many levels, not that there aren't other people dealing with the same obstacles, but how you have to deal with it, how they manifest in your life is totally unique to you. And many people say, well, I couldn't meditate, it's too hard. Okay, that's a thought. Others say, well, I don't have time. Okay, that's a thought. What we really don't understand is all of those words are certainly thoughts. Some might say excuses, others would say reasons, and I think all of the above are true. But here's the reality. None of that's going to help you get to where you want to be if where you want to be is all that you can be. Now, if you don't want to be the best you, and if you don't want to live the best life, by all means, make the excuses. But on the other side, if you're prone to have a desire to be more than what you've ever been, because you know that you were created to be more, then that's a different statement. In their fully developed form, they can be overcome through meditation. So is there any value in meditation? We go back, we find people like Saudi in the first century who was meditating when he was 3 and 4 years old. I would say if that man lived today and we brought him to this place intellectually, intelligence-wise, and peace-wise, he is superior to all of us on every level. And yet he may have been on a bottom rung in his time frame. So, it may be found simpler to consider these two aphorisms in the reverse order, since the obstacles to enlightenment must first be overcome in their fully developed or gross form. The way in which this is to be done has been likened to the washing of a piece of dirty cloth. So our life, as a metaphoric picture, is a dirty piece of cloth. First, the dirt must be loosened with soap, and then you rinse it away with clean water. Soap represents the practice of the preliminary steps towards yoga. That is the soap that begins to wash you. That is the learning discipline. The not being able to meditate is one of the greatest lessons that exist. Because until you realize you can't do something, you can never have any possibility of doing it. But then, alas, the bad thing about all of this truth is that now when you get told the truth, now it's no longer ignorance. It's now I made a choice and I chose the wrong choice. And so the dirt must be loosened with soap, then washed away with clean water. Soap represents the practice of the preliminary steps towards yoga, austerity, study, the dedication of the fruits of one work to God. The dedication of one's works to God is the soap that washes my life. Wow. I don't know how more profound of a spiritual statement one can make. Just that 1/3 of that. Which are discussed in the commentary on the first aphorism of this chapter. Water represents the practice of meditation. Soap and water are both indispensable if the cloth of your mind is to be properly cleaned. Once again, why can't you get your hands clean? Why do you keep failing? Why do you keep doing the things that you want to do, O wretched man that I am, as Paul said? Because you haven't cleaned the thing that matters the most. It's like I said earlier, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter whether it's some physical trait you have. It doesn't make any difference. If that is your focus, that's as far as you will ever go. When you begin to focus on the internal things and not the external things, all of a sudden, the whole game changes. So, soap and water are both indispensable if the cloth of the mind is to be properly cleansed. So you have to have time to shut your mind down. You have to have time to think. You have to have time to contemplate. For some, sitting on the back porch looking over the smoke of a cigarette may be contemplation to the max for them. So I don't say that all meditation has to come across the way that other people does, but you must find that deepness inside of yourself. When the obstacles in their fully developed form, the one cannot cannot be used effectively without the other. When the obstacles in their fully developed form have been overcome, they will still exist vestigially as tendencies or samskaras. That is to say, I was blessed and supernaturally healed by source of smoking cigarettes 30 years ago, and yet my lungs are still being affected. When the obstacles in their fully developed form have been overcome, they will still exist vestigially as tendencies. You have no clue how many times dark spirits, as I was driving down the road, seems like more so in Texas because they had them, but you drive past a cigarette billboard and I've had it speak in my mind, say to me, "Don't you want one? Ask Suzanne if you can have a cigarette." Just vestigially, it's still there. It still comes back. I'm so thankful that I was healed of it. I know about myself, I would die with a cigarette in my mouth had something in the supernatural spirit realm not interceded on my behalf. I would have never been able to physically quit that. I knew that. That's what makes it so much more beautiful that he supernaturally healed me. But to think that there isn't anything that's come out of that after the fact would be very naive. So when the obstacle in their fully developed form have been overcome, can we be overcomers? Can you be an overcomer today? Of course. Does Source desire for you to overcome? Absolutely, unequivocally. You can do it if you choose to, and Source wants you to do it. There's still going to be tendencies. Whatever your weakness is, whatever your thing is, somebody who stole a lot walked by and their mind immediately tells them you should pick that up or you should get this. Or somebody who lies, they get an opportunity where they can say the truth, and instead of say the truth, it's just so simple for them to lie, they almost would rather lie than tell the truth. That's never going to go away from those people, whatever your weakness is. Maybe your weakness is you don't want to work hard, so you're always going to have that thing to not do anything. It just goes on. It doesn't make any difference. It's no respecter of person. Every one of us have those inside of us in our lives. It's up to us to choose to change them. These tendencies are only destroyed when the mind is resolved back into its cause, that is, into Prakriti, from which the mind was projected. So I hope that you can see there's a reason why, not just because I try to impose things or pain or whatever on people. Friends, for every one of us, and the only people that don't know this are people who don't know anything. But there is nothing easy about the spiritual journey. Nothing. Now, it might be once we go on the other side of the veil and we're not in this human form, but whether it be our human soul or just being in this lower frequency world, I don't know what it is that causes it, but I mean, Paul knew what he was saying, and it was very metaphysical when he said that everything I don't want to do, I do. That's exactly what they're talking about here. Whatever that thing is that you struggle with is that thing. Whatever it is. Doesn't make any difference. One isn't any worse than the other. A junkie isn't any worse than a liar. They have this thing, and even if they go into rehab, what happens usually? They come out of rehab, get around the same friends. What are they doing? They're right back where they were again. And that's how every one of us live until we choose to not live that way. Once again, that's reality that they created. And so if we can create it, then we can also uncreate it. Or, more appropriately, create anew. And so I don't want you, neither do these writers, want you to think that somehow we're going to come to some supernatural God-man status. You're going to be struggling and fighting until the day you step out of this human body, friends. I don't know what happens after we cross the veil. Maybe everything is wonderful and the colors are like I'm on acid and everybody's happy. I can't tell you that that's what reality is. I haven't been there. So ponder this statement a minute. These tendencies, whichever ones you have, whatever your bin is. I mean, for some it's ego, for some it's pride. Some people just have a bent towards being prideful. They're prideful about everything they do. And pride can, I think we have to learn a new word for good pride. But in my simple layman's term, good pride can be a very positive thing. It makes you have a work ethic that's higher than everybody else. It makes you have a care about what you do. But I think we need to find a new word instead of pride, because pride in itself, in a nutshell, inevitably is going to lead you to destruction. Now, if that is the pride that you have, inevitably that thing that you have that drives you is going to be also the thing that destroys you. That's why workaholics, they have an amazing work ethic, but what ends up happening to them? They end up getting burnt out. They end up dying of heart attacks early. All kinds of negative things that come out of something that's very positive. That's their tendency. If they get into a situation and there's work, they can't stop. Elon Musk is one of those. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. That guy's mind never cuts off, I think. I think maybe his Neuralink was so he could get a volume control up there and turn it down when he wanted to sleep. He's a good guy. I'm glad he's here. There's much to learn from the blessing of his life, but I can't imagine what it would be like never to have a desire to let down and to slow down. The mass majority of people, that's why he fires so many people, because they can't hang with him. If you complain about working 8 hours, I guarantee you don't want to be around that guy. Just pure and simple. And that don't necessarily make you bad, but it sure don't make you good. So these tendencies are only destroyed when the mind is resolved back into the cause. That is, into Prakriti, from which the mind was projected. Only. This is, of course, the process of going into samadhi. Aphorism 12. A man's latent tendencies. Latent has the concept of late, slow, continuing, hanging, pending. You know, the little thing is kind of a concept of latency, the little thing when it's buffering. So the man's hanging on tendencies have been created by his past thoughts and actions. If you're lazy because you thought yourself into laziness. You could have changed that and said, I'm not lazy, and every time you wanted to not do something, you get up and go do something, and eventually you won't even say, I'm lazy. But that's a total revamp of the mind, and nobody but you can do it. And if you choose not to, you'll pay the price for that. Karma's real, folks. It's going on all the time. So these tendencies will bear fruit, both in this life and in lives to come. Good or bad. You understand there are just as good a tendencies as there is bad tendencies. Whichever one you choose to rule you is going to be the one that your harvest comes from. But it's not just here. If I don't do what I'm called to do while I'm here, friend, it's going to cost me in the next life. And since I saw myself 300 years from now and I was a teacher then, I suspect no matter what anybody thinks about me, I should probably continue to do what I'm doing. Across lives. Wow, how pathetic of our thought processes that we've been taught our whole life. It is accorded unto every man once to die, and then the judgment. I look at that now and I go, you know, that's a pretty horrible state. Because to be quite honest with you, on my best day, I haven't always been very good. And on my bad days, I've been really bad. Is anybody besides me alive today? Any of you ever had some really bad days and you were really bad? Maybe so much so that you even shamed yourself. Now, if you can do that, that should be a dead giveaway, because the rest of the world's probably already been shamed of you. We're always on the end of the chain, friends. We control it, and yet we're on the end of it. We're the last ones to see what the outcome of our behavior was. Everybody else saw it. You'll notice that in all of these principles, they all work both ways. So now there's people that don't want to talk to me because of the words that I'm saying, and before they used to talk to me because of the words that I'm saying. So what that means is that I'm paying a price depending on which words. One is that they draw close to me. The other is that they repelled from me. And that's how your life is every single day, every single hour, every single minute. Your life is just like that. So our latent tendencies, understand, a tendency is a way that you typically act. A latent tendency have been created by what? What caused this latent tendency that I can't seem to get rid of? And what caused it was the things you think about and the way that you act. These tendencies will bear fruit. Don't you doubt. It's like me telling you, friend, I'm telling you, karma doesn't ever stop. Never. Never. Now, there are people channeling that there's going to be a time when karma, people misunderstand hearing those words because they don't have understanding. Karma's never going to go away. It only is going to be because it has a threshold. When you rise above, frequency rises above, karma's still here. It's not going away. Neither does Cryon tell people that. They just have no understanding. Karma is not going away until your frequency rises above it. And if that doesn't happen, you're still functioning and will continue to function under the load of karma, no matter who tells you it's not so. It is coming a time as our frequencies rise where we can be free of the load and the bondage of karma. But it is only based on your actions. You really need to ask yourself, have I really ascended at all? And if you answer that, wonderful. I hope you answer absolutely I have. That's not a word to try to condemn somebody. A man's latent tendencies have been created by his past thoughts and actions. Why aren't they teaching this in Christianity? You want to find out how to help people be better people? So I offer you nothing but you're saved and going to heaven, and that somehow helps you to live a better life, right? But whether they're good or whether they're bad thoughts and actions, they're all going to bear fruit. Just depending on what it is. That's why Yahusha used that metaphor so many times. How you bear fruit, how you bear fruit, how you bear fruit, how you bear fruit. There's got to be a reason why that picture is so potent. Both in this life and in lives to come. And of course, that's always this thing for an ex-Christian, man. I still do have to be honest with you. Sometimes I struggle a little bit with the thought of reincarnation. I go, I know I didn't pick them as parents. I bet my grandson and granddaughter probably said that. I know I didn't pick them as grandparents. They're good kids. But do you understand my point? So, if our latent tendencies will bring fruit, whether good or bad, which is really the whole concept, and it all comes off of what? Your thoughts and your actions. You can have a thought and not an action, and you counteract some of the karmic load. If you continue with the thoughts, inevitably the actions will come. It just gets delayed. Maybe some of you have been through that before. You talked yourself out of something 5 times, and then the last time you didn't talk yourself out of it. Well, the minute that you did the action, you're going to get paid. All those other times of thoughts were where you had the stomping ground to stop that nonsense. So, Aphorism 13, with that knowledge in hand. So long as the cause exists, it will bear fruits. That's why they tell you that these things lead into other lives, because some people never conquer this in a lifetime, friend. So you just keep doing the thing all the way up until you die, and then what? You step into another lifetime. Who cares if it's 10,000 years? Time is nothing once you cross the veil. Doesn't matter how long it is. So long as the cause exists, it will bear fruit. Not if, not might. That's about like pride goeth before destruction, or destruction goes before pride. They're working together, is my point. So as long as this cause still exists, it's going to continue to bear fruit. Such as rebirth, a long or a short life. And the experiences of pleasure and of pain. Wow. So now what we're experiencing, whether good or bad, is just as tied to and comes out of those tendencies that we seem to have. Because some people like to think that tendencies are just in one area of our life. That it's not so. Those same tendencies are in every area of your life. If you're lazy about everything you do. If you're a liar, you lie about everything you do. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So long as the cause exists. So then it sounds to me like what we need to learn how to do is either control or get rid of the cause. It will bear fruit, such as rebirth. So now you've done it and it will rebirth. That's why the tendencies never go away, because you just rebirth them. Just as there is reincarnation in the human life, but you're going to bring them back in your next life. I wondered what it was from the Civil War I was supposed to learn that's applicable here. And I saw in the encounter that I had, I saw the hate and the anger in the Union soldiers against me, a Southerner. And so I asked Source, I'm like, please show me, as I can understand, please show me what it is that I'm supposed to see out of this. What was it in that life that I needed to, what was the piece that I would take out of there? Maybe some of it I'm still dealing with, because I never dealt with it. Of course, I never knew I was supposed to. So long as the cause exists, it will bear fruit, such as rebirth, a long or a short life, and the experience of pleasure and pain. And pain's okay. We should learn to love pain. It has many, many, many redeeming value. I don't say that we should want to hurt ourselves, and I'm not talking about scarification and piercings and whatever other evil thing that you can choose to do to your human flesh. I'm talking about life brings pain to us. Probably we should learn how to deal with it properly. That's what I'm talking about. So experiences of pleasure and of pain are the fruits in merit and demerit, respectively. Does anybody hear that? Experiences of pleasure and pain are the fruit of that fruit tree that you're going to bear. No questions, you will bear it. Your experiences of pleasure or pain. So I'm guessing there's a built-in for us as we reincarnate that we're supposed to get better every time. I don't know that we ever accomplish anything completely or fully. We still have these tendencies. We come into the next life, we still have the tendencies. But hopefully we became a wiser soul after this life. Do you see? That's why when you hear people say that there are people who have had thousands of lives, it just took them longer maybe than it took you, or maybe you've had thousands of lives. But the tendencies are there. Not only are they there in the life you're living in now, they're in the next one that you incarnate. So everything that you conquer, every life that you live will be that much less that you have to deal with. And when you start talking about ascended masters, Yeshua was an ascended master because he had overcome karma. He had no negative works. He only had good works from which to reap. And you say, yeah, he reaped crucifixion and a lot of pain and stuff. You're carnal. Because that didn't matter to him. What mattered to him was what he spiritually got out of each life that he had lived. And that's what we're supposed to be looking for. What spiritually can I get out of this life, or am I going to go away deficit and do this all over again, and I'm probably not going to be any smarter next time, and I'll do it all over again? Versus, I get it. Might be a slow, hard path, but I'm going to fix as much as I can fix right now, because that's that much less that I have to fix later. Are there also people living on this earth that are in their last incarnation that have defeated karma? There's many of them. They won't come back again. So experiences 14, experiences of pleasure and of pain are the fruits of merit and demerit, respectively. So here we go, folks. But the man of spiritual discrimination, ladies, that includes you, the human. I'm going to change that to human. I used to hate Christian people that did this, and now I'm going to do it. This isn't just about a man. This applies equally to women. But the man of spiritual discrimination, the human of spiritual discrimination, what does that word mean? That I'm able to discriminate in the spirit realm. I'm able to see right and wrong, good and bad, up and down, yes and no, in the spirit realm. We used to call them in Christianity, especially around the Pentecostals, we would say that people had a discernment. Oh, well, they can look at somebody and they'll discern, well, you're a thief or you're a liar, and God just gave it to them. The truth is all of us possess that ability. We just don't know it. And if we do know it, we haven't done anything to enhance it. For even the enjoyment of pleasant pleasure is painful, since we already fear its loss. Past pleasure is painful because renewed cravings arise from the impressions it has left upon your mind. Ever done that? Ever seen somebody that maybe you even parted ways in not so kind ways, and you see them 10 years later, and all of a sudden you see them, you forget all the things that went on, and you see them in a totally different concept? That's what that's talking about. And then there's the others who have the pain through the whole time, and they never forget. But to be sure, it is an imprint that's been left on your mind. And how can any happiness be lasting if it depends only upon our moods? We have a lot of Karenistic traits in our society. What's that one that you call, Mariana? The people are in something? Oh, never mind. We oftentimes allow our emotions and our moods to be our reality. I've watched people do devious things, and you could see it in their face if you could see their face. You could see the deviousness in them. Sometimes you will see somebody with a profound act of kindness, and when you look in their face, it shows up in their face. We have to learn how to control our emotions. Emotions are controlled by the mind. Bashar shares a word that's good for all of us. I speak this over myself almost every day. Circumstances mean nothing. What kind of a person do I want to be? So when people do evil things to you, or maybe you do kindness and nobody even recognizes it, nobody even cares, you have to say, so what difference does that make? I did what was good. If they choose to do the wrong thing, that'll be their fruit. That's what they'll receive. Which is exactly part of what Yeshua was talking about when he said it's better to give than it is to receive. Because if you give, it's always good fruit. If you receive and do the wrong thing, that good fruit turns to sour for you. Goes on all the time. So, past pleasure is painful because renewed cravings arise from the impressions that is left upon your mind. And we all have those times. Maybe you've sat somewhere and you've thought about something that went on in the past, and all of a sudden it created this euphoric feeling of rapture, or whatever, however you want to say it. Maybe for some it was romanticism. Maybe for somebody else it was some other emotion, but it created this emotion, just the simple fact. And you couldn't have those feelings that you had without that having not come from an impression left inside of your mind in the actual. So it's actually an image. What we see when we have those rapturous moments that are carnal, it has to do with that very fact. And how can any happiness be lasting if it depends only upon our moods? The truth is that it can't, because our moods change so quickly. For these moods are constantly changing as one or another, listen at this, of another of the ever-warring gunas seizes control of your mind. So whichever one at the time inside of your mind, you know, the American Indians had a statement that they used, and they said that each of us have two wolves inside of us, and the one we feed is the one that will become dominant. I can't imagine a more wisdom-filled statement than that one. The one that we feed. So if you don't like this timeline, quit feeding that timeline. If you want to experience this timeline, start feeding it. It may take a while to get there. You may have to go through some pain. You may have to go through some change. You may have to go through some suffering. But I promise you, if you will do that work, this will be infinitely better than this. And so I hope with all of my heart to each and every one of you that you will begin to see that. My words are not meant to be harsh when I make the statement that it's all your fault, but it's all your fault. I mean, it's pure and simple. If you did differently, you would have different results. You don't want to do differently, get the same results. Deal with it. It's okay if you want to continue getting that result with me. I don't say that it's the best. I just say that if that's what you want, that's what you should do, good or bad. I've watched thousands of people hurt themselves, and I had to allow them to do it. Sit at my desk for hours and tell them the right path, but I still always, as they walk out the door, I have to let go, because I know that most won't. And it's been my recollection, probably closer to 99% won't. But maybe I just had some exceptionally, whatever term I use, people to deal with. Caused a lot of pain, friends. And then you think about that, then the tendencies to do it again are still in you. Just because you did the stupid thing and you paid karma for it didn't mean it went away. It's going to come back again, which is why we have this principle. All of you understand this principle. People get drunk, what do? They say their whole life that I'm not going to do it again, I'm not going to do it again, I'm not going to do it again. No different than a guy who gets drunk and beats on his old lady. How many times is he going to tell her that he won't ever do it again till he knocks her in the side of the head the next time he gets drunk again? When are we going to quit being victims? It's not happening because of someone else. The woman has an opportunity, a right, after he gets drunk and beats on her the first time, to pack her crap and leave. And don't come back no matter how bad he wants you to. And if you don't, then you're stuck in that timeline and you're going to stay there over and over. And if you don't stop it in this life, you're going to experience it in the next one too. How horrid. That millions of us would have to have had to live a life that caused that. And yes, it's all our fault, but all of us are prone to the same things if we don't have the truth. That's why the truth is so important. It is our responsibility to change ourselves. And you can tell yourself and you can tell all of your friends that you don't really care, but I guarantee you, you care. Guarantee you. You'll be the first one that complains when things don't go right. If you didn't care, why would it matter? People fool and deceive themselves all the time. I don't care what that. Well, what if you don't care what somebody said? Why are you saying something about it? I've found that the things people don't care about, they don't talk about too much. Just an observation. So, I hope all of us will take this and grow. There's supposed to be a great awakening going on. There's supposed to be people who are willing to be honest with yourself, because the great awakening is going to come out of the mind, friend. And it's going to come out of people who are willing to quit lying to themselves. Because you're delusional as long as you keep lying to yourself. Which is why the scriptures tell us that there will be a strong delusion. Strong delusion is, piece of it comes out of Christianity. If you'll just accept this as a savior, you don't need to do anything else. You know what human nature says? If you tell me I don't have to do anything else, I'll be the laziest person you ever met in your life. Kids who are raised up without having to work are always lazy. They don't know any different. Some of these things don't go away, man. This is humanity 101. So we still come back to the place that we have an opportunity. We do have an option of which timeline our life finishes at. And you get to choose which that is. Amazing free will. Source knows exactly what we need. Now it's just up to us to make that decision. So, peace with you guys this week. I hope you'll apply some of these things as we get into these holiday things. Kind of weird to me the first time of not looking negatively at Christmas. That's been kind of a trip. I've made a bunch of jokes about it, but I don't care. None of it means anything anyway. So why are you twisted up on either side? I've been telling all the people Happy Holy Days at the Shaker Bell thing. What difference does it make? Is it going to change me inside? Is it going to help me be the person that I know that I am? Probably not. Then I need to focus on something else. So, peace to each and every one of you guys. I hope you have an amazing week. We have an email there. You're more than welcome to write me. Also, my email for my crystal business. I hope you guys enjoy that. Everybody, when you get them, I hope they work. If not, let me know. And really is. It's amazing and wonderful to be alive in this time. The truth that is able to come out. 100 years ago, we couldn't have heard these things. We would have had to have been a very blessed person whose daddy was really rich and sent us abroad to learn them. Let me say it like that, because that's about the only people that got to hear this. And in that way, the internet is a huge blessing. There's lots of things that ain't so blessing about it, but there's a lot of good that's coming out of the internet. So once again, you remember the thing back about the dark forces in the spirit? Can the internet be bad? Absolutely. But it's blind. It doesn't see that the Spirit is using it for its purpose. The other side effects, you're just supposed to be mature enough not to buy those hooks. But sometimes we are and sometimes we ain't, right? So anyways, I love you guys. Hope you have an amazing week. And there's plenty of stuff. The weather up here is about to warm up for a few days. And so I hope wherever you're at, I hope Source provides you with amazing weather to enjoy this time. We go together. May my light illuminate you, and may your light also illuminate me. Namaste. All right.